Here we go. And we are officially live, broadcasting only on onedealaway.com/live. My name is Nev. This is Money Matters. And today's episode is incredibly important because we're going to be talking about something unprecedented whatsoever. Now, I know you are tired, sick and tired of hearing the word unprecedented, but there is no other way to call it when a health department decides on business. That's right. So, Congress is not making any moves whatsoever when it comes to money or evictions or stimulus or any of that stuff, right? So, CDC stepped in and said, no evictions. Now, I know we typically do real estate overview on Thursdays, and today's Thursday. Oh my gosh. I thought it was Wednesday. I'm like, we typically do real estate on Thursdays, but we got to talk about this. It turns out it is Thursday, and we should be talking about this stuff. So, good thinking, Nev, but I didn't prepare all of the real estate stuff. I was looking at some of the other components. So, we'll do more of that tomorrow. I will not forget, I promise you that much, because it is important for us to take a look at that. So, we're going to be talking about all of that stuff and how to prepare if you are a landlord, if you are thinking about investing in properties, if you already invested in properties, and of course, if you are a tenant as well, what do all of these things mean? Then we're also going to look at what's going on with some of the defunding stuff. And then I have also looked at some of the Fed stuff. The Fed has issued its Beige Book. And it's not very beige. It's not very bright out there. It should be the little brown book, personally. But anyways, all kinds of things to talk about. So let's not waste time. Let's do this. And good morning. As I have discovered, it is Thursday morning. I honestly thought it was Wednesday the whole time. I've been up for a couple hours. The whole time I thought it was Wednesday, it was Wednesday, it was Wednesday. So, say it to yourself enough times and you start believing it. All right, so let's not waste any time whatsoever chit-chattering around because we have some important stuff to discuss, to discover, and to understand and learn. And first one of those things is the Fed Reserve Beige Book. Now, what they do is basically publish this on regular basis. They publish sort of a state of the union, so to speak, right? Like, where are all these districts of the Federal Reserve and kind of how are they doing? What is the economic situation within it? And then they publish the darn thing. And you can download and read the whole thing if you like. And as you can see, they have like a whole summary, and then you can get reports from each of the districts, right? And overall, so I looked at all of this stuff, and overall, we're not going to read the whole thing, but overall, it's not good. I know you're shocked. You are shocked. Now, one area that seemed to be kind of a shiny light out for all of the districts, or just about, yeah, all of the districts, is real estate, right? Because he has performed so well because people were just locked up and ready to leave and move and expand and do something different. So that was the only thing, the only shiny light at the end of a very, very dark tunnel. Everything else, when we take a look into it, y'all, economic stuff, slightly, sorta, maybe, right? So anything that was on the positive side had these very sort of diminutive, it's kind of positive, but not really. And then anything that didn't work was the deepest dive ever, the biggest loss ever, the highest, unemployment ever. So it's there's goods and bads. It's just that the bad is if I was to put it on the spectrum, right? I think bad would be 70 to 80%, and then good is maybe 20 to 30%. And and then of course, as far as the impact of the bad versus good, then you put like 90% on the bad, then 10% on the good, and then when you kind of you know mix it all up, it's like 90% bad. Basically, I mean, it's just it's not good, y'all. It's not good. Employment and wages are down. Employment is down. Prices are up. Not for everything, but for things that you actually need. What else is out there, right? So, and those are the things that we all know. I mean, this is of course happening like from here, let's take a look at some of the stuff from Boston, for example. Like, right, employees of some firms were called back, while others remain in furlough. In some more permanent job, the strength of the region is housing market in July. Then you go over to New York, right? Well, retail activity and single-family housing market have continued to improve. Labor market is weak. Hiring activity has slowed. Selling prices and wages have mostly steady, right? Like, so it's that kind of stuff. Okay, let's jump to Atlanta, for example. Well, economic conditions are mixed. Labor market improved modestly. Non-labor costs were subdued. Certain retail segments were strong, while others reported softness. Tourism activity remained soft. Residential real estate conditions improved. Commercial real estate activity was mixed. Manufacturing increased. Banking condition rebounded slightly. Like, as you can see, nothing is firing on all cylinders, as they say. Like, it's here and there, and you see stuff, and if you're kind of curious and saying, all right, Nav, well, that's the east side of the coast. All right, well, let's take a look. I mean, Texas has been performing really well. Let's see what Dallas has to say. All right, here we go. Well, while manufacturing activity continued to expand, service sector activity declined overall in July, but resumed in nascent recovery in August. Energy activity remained depressed. Sharply rising home sales were a bright spot. Outlooks were increasingly uncertain, and surging COVID 19 cases disrupted business sentiment. And I said the word, and I was supposed to say beer. I forgot. All right, San Francisco, employment levels increased marginally, price inflation remained generally unchanged, sales of goods and services rose slightly, conditions in the consumer and business services sector remained precarious, activity in the manufacturing sector increased modestly, the agriculture sector remained weak, residential construction activity picked up briskly, activity in the commercial market increased a bit, lending activity ticked up a bit, ticked up, precarious. Like, as you can see, like, this is not good, y'all. This is not good at all, at all. So, anyways, if you want to read the full thing, absolutely do that. You can find that on the Federal Reserve website, right? So just go in, click that puppy, read it, understand it, learn from it, and, kind of be ready. So, that's kind of where we are right now. Now, one of the interesting things that has happened, and I don't like to get into politics at all, but this has actually potential impact on money and investing, and I think it has potentially a larger impact when it comes to the union. Um, I know it sounds crazy, right? You know how I tell you sometimes that, like, sometimes I have these thoughts and I know that they sound crazy, but yet I can't shake them off. And I'm not quite sure how to think about it, and I certainly hope that I am wrong. But, when you have a federal government basically say, we're going to defund you as a state completely, right? We're cutting you off from the family. Get out. Well, you do that, right? There is a potential. Nobody's talking about it. It's not in the news. This is just Nev's crazy thoughts. But there is a potential where these locations might say, you want us out? We're out. Independence for us. Independent this, independent that. So, this is what the news that kind of sparked that thought. And it's not the first time that we're hearing some of the more liberal states talk about the fact that they want out of the union. Is it going to happen? I don't know. My crystal ball broke years ago, but things are looking ugly, and I could see it go this way. Let's take a look. All right. Trump orders feds to begin process of defunding New York, Portland, and other lawless cities. The president ordered the federal government to begin the process of defunding New York City, Portland, Seattle, and Washington, D.C., cities where officials allowed lawless protests to cut police budgets amid rising violent crimes. The president ordered them to report to the White House Office of Management and Budget on any funding that could be redirected. New York City, Portland, Seattle, and even Washington, D.C. are among the initial targets of the measure. And the president had stated that my administration will not allow federal tax dollars to fund cities that allow themselves to deteriorate into lawless zones. Okay, so and there you go. You see the tweet right here from Trumpster going out, and he writes that the city of Seattle allowed anarchists and rioters to take over 6 square blocks of the city. Law-abiding citizens live and work in the invaded area, and the local government effectively endorsed lawlessness, taking the property by and taking of the property by one of the among things is abandoning basically the precinct, the Seattle Police Department precinct, and forbidding the police force from intervening to restore order. For New York, the memo said that the city has refused to prosecute rioters, rejected the offer of the federal help, and cut the police budget despite the unconscious unconscious. All right, despite rise in violence. All right, work with me here. Oh my gosh, I really need to practice on English still. 20 some years, y'all, and I still get there. In Portland, Oregon, officials have allowed violent anarchists to lawfully riot and engage in criminal activity on the streets, including the destruction of property. The nation's capital was not spared from Trump wrath. He said that Washington, D.C. mayor allowed the rioters and anarchists to engage in violence and destruction in late May and early June. And of course, now they're going back and forth, and it's an election year, right? So it's Republicans versus Democrats. Who's right? Who's wrong? Meanwhile, people suffer. I keep saying this. They're going to be playing the political games, but meanwhile, people suffer, and suffering is nowhere and in sight. So, of course, they're going back and forth. The memo was drafted prior to the last week's incident following the Republican convention and that kind of stuff. And after months of referring to the frequent rioting and looting merely as peaceful protests, mainstream media outlets began blaming the riots on Trump, and then later on switched over that it's the Democrats and it's their fault. And of course, in response to the memo, the New York Governor Andrew Cuomo wasted no time in slamming the president. As if you recall, even during the sort of the height of the beer overflow, I remembered, too late now. Coffee, y'all, iced coffee. Anyways, the they were going back and forth all the time about that PPP or the protective whatever, like the medical stuff. So they were going back and forth, calling each other names the whole time. So that's kind of where we are right now. And of course, Cuomo all but threatened the president's safety return to the city, basically saying he better have an army if he thinks he's gonna walk down the city of New York. So, anyways, this whole back and forth, Spell, the biggest piece for us to remember is that this is a reality, potential reality of what's happening inside the country. Is the fact that they're, on one hand, they're saying defund the police. On the other hand, they're saying defund the city. And who is left in the middle? Well, the people. Now, of course, when it comes to the people, you have the wealthy who are predominantly leaving, the able who are predominantly leaving if they can, right? And some of the people were like, excuse me, some of the people were like, no, I need to stay, right? Hold on. Much better. All of a sudden, we went from dark to the light, and I'm like, my eyes, I can't see anything. So, my apologies. It's gonna take a moment for my eyes to get adjusted to what's been going on. So, my apologies for my. Let me do my thing, but I had to put the shades down, y'all. It's crazy. So as I was going to say, those that could leave, they're leaving. What is leaving is those that are looting, right? That want to stay and destroy stuff. And then those that are caught in the fire of like, I can't leave and I'm not interested in looting, right? So the normal, regular old citizens like you and I, who are just kind of stuck there now, having to deal with it. And of course, if they defund the police, then, I mean, who the heck is going to come help when you need help? Nobody, right? I mean, there's going to be nobody to come and assist. Now you're defunding the city, which means, they don't have any money from anything. So now we're thinking like, sewer, water, trash. I mean, I don't know. This is starting to look like, I know everybody's talking about it starting to look like the 1984, right? The Aurelian, the draconian, moves and stuff. But to me, it's like, have you watched? I think it's the Batman, The Dark Knight, or whatever, right? When there's like, city, like whatever the name of the city is, and I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, I can't believe you don't remember, but I don't remember it. I just know that kind of like in my head, like it always reminded me of like Chicago or New York City, but it's not that. It's a made up city, obviously, and it's like there's just like all this like dirt and looting and beatings and that kind of stuff, and that's kind of like where I feel like we're heading to. Like this is beyond scary. It's on one hand, right? It's very scary what's happening economically, right? And but if we could keep the law and order and peace and some sort of resemblance of normal life together, I think we could get through the economic stuff much easier and simpler. But now you put together all of the, the beatings and the shootings and the burnings and the looting and the breaking and the defund that and defund this and and it's just beyond scary. And I honestly think, as much as everybody's like, oh, we'll be back and this is all going to be resolved by the time the election is done, or 2021, this is going to be done. And I honestly think this is going to take at least an entire decade to resolve, if not longer. So it's going to be painful years ahead. Again, I hope I'm wrong. But, on the good news, if there is good news to be delivered, on the good news is when things turn bad, really, really bad, and I know because I lived through them, right, more than once, um, over time, the bad becomes normal. I know that sounds really sad, but it's the truth. So it's one of those things that it's going to feel really yucky in the moment, but as the time progresses, it becomes the new normal. Now, we never forget the old normal and how amazing it was. Sorry, I'm rubbing my eyes because I'm trying to get my eyes to recover so I can see my screen. So, the you never forget how good it was, but you accept much easier where we are and what is going on. And then, of course, that becomes the new normal. We struggle a little bit, then we accept and we move on and make the best out of it. And eventually, things start getting better because they truly are getting better, but because also our expectations are shifting as well. And now we're comparing to the most recent, which was equally as bad. So it's kind of like when the beer showed up, right? And we all got locked up in our homes, right? And the first few weeks were like probably like, okay, first day was like kind of lovely maybe. And then first few weeks you were like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. But by the time, like May came, we were like, all right, this is the new normal, right? Like everybody was in on it. So it's the exact same thing. So what I'm saying is we'll make it, we'll manage it, we'll survive it, but it's not going to be anything like we've seen in the first 20 years of 2000, or even last 20 years of the 1900s, okay? Depending obviously on the country and the location you're coming from, and right, all of those different pieces, because different things have happened differently around the world. So one of the things that I do want to cover, and I'm still having challenges seeing, so clearly I'm gonna need to like relax after this. But this is the one. This is the one that I wanted to share with you. In an unprecedented move, CDC halts most rental evictions until 2020. They basically stepped in and said, you know what? Congress is not doing anything. We are going to do stuff. And where basically they came in and said that nobody can get evicted until at least the end of 2020. So we still have September, October, November, December for next 4 months. So if you have had a tenant that hasn't been paying rent since March, you basically have gone without a paycheck for what, 3 quarters of the year, 75% of the year, and they get to stay there for free. And they're basically coming in and saying that the order will apply to Americans who qualify for for direct payment under the CARES Act. But then they expanded it to say, no, 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 no. This applies to everyone. Renters will have to prove that they have taken their best effort to make a payment and to collect the money from the government. So it's easy to prove because government is not issuing as much money. So even if they collect the best effort, collect money from the government, right? They don't have to. Here's the crazy part, right? What they have to prove. They have to prove the best effort to collect. They have to prove that they're unable to pay due to the situation. Super easy, right? And then they must show that if they get kicked out, they'll probably be homeless or have to go into, congregate housing. And that's an easy one thing to do, right? For just about anyone these days. And so basically, as long as they can prove that, they will have to fill out a few forms, which they can find on CDC's website. And that's that. That's that. Now, why is CDC doing this stuff, right? Like, that's what the question is. Well, the CDC is doing this stuff because they're saying having more people, because A, Congress is not doing it because they're on vacation, and B, because they're saying, well, this is health and safety risk, and we are charged with protecting the health and safety of our people. So, if we are in charge of protecting health and safety of our people, well, then we're saying for everybody's health, so that we're not spreading the diseases, it does not make sense to kick people out of their homes. So we have to keep more people off the streets. As such, no evictions, period, end of conversation. Now, because the move is federally mandated, it would become a criminal offense if the landlord chose to ignore the declaration. Now, of course, once the tenant gets the paperwork from CDC, they have to give it over to the landlord, and then landlord, your hands are tied. I mean, that's it. You're dead in the water, and the only thing left for landlords to do is to rise, complain, pray, loot, and let's see if Fed gives rest of us money too. Right? So that's kind of thing. Because the only thing left for the landlords at this point is to continue to pay without getting paid, or go for the forbearance and hope and pray that the bank will actually do that stuff, and that they will hopefully tackle on just the payments at the end of the whole thing, or redistribute or do some sort of work around with you, rather than just, kind of force you to pay the full-blown thing at the front, which I think that they will do. But again, it depends on the bank to bank, and I have no clue what they're going to do. There's no way for me to be able to predict how any of that is going to work, to be honest with you, okay? So that's one of the things that you want to make sure that I am sorry, I have no clue what's going on with my eyes. I'm struggling big time. But that is one thing that you definitely want to pay attention to, that might be the only way out of the whole thing. And they're saying that the penalties for landlords who don't pay attention and stuff are going to be, who actually violate the order, would be like up to, where did I hear? Somewhere I heard like up to $100,000 in penalties, $100,000 in penalties, and 1 year in jail. And I'm going, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, like, come on, man. But anyways, so do not violate this thing. The best thing to do is, just, if you have to go through forbearance, then that's probably the best choice at this moment. And then let's all hope and pray that they come up with a solution that makes sense for everybody. While landlords are being effectively stripped of most of their, or if not all of their rights, extraordinary intervention, they will still be able to remove tenants for committing criminal acts, threatening health and safety of other residents, and damaging property and health, or other health and safety considerations. Although, good luck getting through the local police station and reporting crime in a country where defunding the local law enforcement is seen as the pinnacle of progressive thought. So, there you go. We're getting squeezed from every different direction. And basically, what they're saying is that under the CARES Act, only renters and in federally backed rental units were protected from eviction. This covers any rental unit in the United States as long as the renter meets the requirements that we just shared above. Those are also there's also currently a moratorium on eviction for federally backed single family home mortgages. So there you go. Realizing that there's nothing short of an invitation to stop paying rent, a CDC official said point blank, this is not an invitation to stop paying rent. And it was unclear how many people died laughing. Anyways, so as you can see, this order makes clear that the renter who cannot pay his or her rent should pay an amount that is unduly burdensome and as close to payment as possible. So they're saying basically the invitation is like, well, if you can pay it, cool, and if you can't, equally as cool. Hey, don't harm yourself. And of course, it's a human right to have a home. You should live there, absolutely free. Well, guess what? It's a human right to also have food and water and sewer and trash collection and heat and all of that stuff. And you know what? None of those darn things are free. Heck yeah, I'll take free food and water and trash collection and, all of that stuff, but none of that stuff is free. So if we're making the world free, who the heck is going to pay for it? That's what my question is, right? So we're not collecting taxes, we're printing money, we don't have to pay for the rent, and now, you're literally inviting everybody in the whole country to basically just go in, and basically what we're saying is looting is cool, and living rent-free is cool. You don't have to pay anything, and there's no penalties for doing anything. We're literally creating policies and laws that are creating a lawless country, circa, I don't know, 1800 something, out in the wild, wild west, not even in the city with the sheriff, right? Where, you would get these like wild riders that just kind of come in and burn the whole town, and then that's that, and there's nothing that's done, and that's really what it feels like. It feels like we're living in a giant Western movie right now, where there is no laws, no rules, no regulations, no nothing whatsoever, and and here's the thing for me, okay, cool, yes. Do I want people to be homeless? Absolutely not, right? Do I understand that some people cannot afford to pay? Absolutely, right? Do I also understand that there's a large number of people that are taking advantage of this stuff, of basically saying, well, I have a rent and I don't have to pay it and they can't kick me out, so I'm just going to collect my unemployment, play video games, smoke weed, hang out, and do a bunch of, whatevers? Absolutely. And you know what? I would love it. I would love it if they just came in and said, you know what? We're going to forgive your mortgage for 9 months. Don't worry. You never have to pay it back. We're not going to kick you out. You don't have to pay it. It's not going to get tacked onto anything. And just, 9 months from now, just resume paying. No penalties, no nothing. Heck yeah. We would all love that. But guess what? That's not the reality. And so the only solution for the those that own properties, which by the way provide the homes for the renters, right? Because if it wasn't for the landlords, where would tenants live, right? You wouldn't have a place to live, right? So I think we have to understand that both sides of the equation. So now you have a landlord who's not getting income, but they still expected to pay the mortgage, right? And if you don't pay the mortgage, well, your only option is forbearance. But forbearance is not forgiveness. It just means that you don't have to pay right now. We're going to give you about 6 months. Then we can talk about it. And depending on how they structure it, they might tackle it at the end, right? In normal number of payments. They might ask you to pay the full-blown thing right there at the beginning, which good luck, never going to happen. They might ask you to restructure the whole mortgage altogether, right? Which all of those things have a lot of risk, whereas renter, zero risk. Zero risk whatsoever. No risk of kicking them out, no risk of anything. And now my question is going to come in. Is CDC going to come in come October, November when they need heat and it's responsibility of the tenant to pay for it? Then the tenant says, no, 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 no. I need the heat for free. I mean, are they going to pay for that as well? My other question is CDC going to now step in and start buying Apple stock and start propping the markets as well? Because that's the direction where we are going. This is getting crazy, crazy, crazy. Where just about everybody and anybody is allowed to start making laws. As for asking why on earth a decision to halt evictions is being made by CDC and not, say, Congress, an official said CDC director has authority to take measures that he is reasonably necessary to mitigate the spread of communicable diseases. So there you go. There you go. Right here, right now. You saw it here on Money Matters. And this is going to wrap up today's show. We do have all kinds of additional news, but I'm going to cover a lot more things coming tomorrow, so you want to definitely stay tuned. We're going to go into the Q&A and chat session for everybody watching live. Those of you watching on YouTube, do me a favor, smash the like button, do subscribe, hit the bell button, and I will see you tomorrow. Until then, stay forever money blessed, and do remember, you are only one deal away.